Hello and welcome to Life Without Shakers, and welcome to what is definitely now the beginning of the end. I'm approaching the end of the final chapter of my Wainwright journey. Last 15 fells to go. Yeah, 2 big walks coming up over the next couple of days with some epic fells still to go. But first, a prelude. Yes, a little light jaunt to warm myself up for the final push. Today's walk is probably the smallest one I've done in the whole journey. It's about 6.5 miles, and that includes the 2.5 mile round trip from the campsite up to Wainwrights to actually get to the foot of the main climb. And it's only 2 fells, and 2 baby little fells at that. It's Fellbarrow and Low Fell today, but it does contain a big milestone, and I get to that later. So let's get underway. One other thing to note as I stroll down the peaceful little river Cocker here, you may have noticed from my attire and from my appearance that it is very baking hot today, and yeah, it's scheduled to get even hotter over the weekend. So yeah, I'm glad it's only a short walk today. I have a feeling this might be one of the shorter videos that I've done. About 3/4 of a mile in, and it's just been a tarmac road so far. A bit windy. Oh, let's get our first view of the hills though. Through the trees there, that is, I think, Fellbarrow. So, this is the little hamlet of Wainwrights. I believe that's the path I need just on the right up there, which will take me up to the hills. And immediately the path heads uphill through these lovely cooling woods. A bit damp underfoot, but it's most welcome, this shade, on a day like today. And nearing the ridge now, the foot of the ridge at least. Assume this is, I'm not quite sure which one this is. This is Fellbarrow or Low Fell. Both right next to each other and equally heighted, equally minimalist in height, I should say. Right, yes, of course, that fell that is just behind me now is Low Fell, because I've forgotten the path bends to the right to curve up behind Fellbarrow and then continues onwards along the ridge towards Low Fell. But this section of path does have a fantastic view across the Vale of Lawton towards Whiteside, over there, Hopegill Head, Grisdale Pike, which you will remember from the walk that I did along there, which was on a similar day to this, I must say. They're actually part of the northwestern fells, whereas the 2 I'm doing today are grouped within the western fells, despite being geographically very close together. Even on a diddy walk like this, there's room for a wrong turn. Just down that path just down there. I was too busy admiring the view. Need to cut across country slightly. There we go. Back on track. I was only just off course. In fairness, and I didn't actually see any obvious forks in the path. Can't be too far up actually now to the top of Fellbarrow. I hope I'm near the top anyway. It's been a good mile of solid climbing now since I left the road. It's not strenuous climbing, it's just, well, it is strenuous climbing on a day like today. It's not steep, I meant to say. Oh. And this is the summit of Fellbarrow, 1,363 feet, and marked on the OS map as Pile of Stones, which is this. But also the men from the OS also thought to put a trig point here, which is handy. And I mentioned there was a milestone coming up. This is Wainwright number 19 of the Western Fells, but I also mentioned there were 15 fells to go, and there are 214 Wainwrights. So simple arithmetic would tell you that this is Wainwrights number 200 in total. And oh yeah, it's quite a little summit for such a big milestone, certainly compared to Fell 100, which was the magnificent summit of Bow Fell. Having said that, it does have a spectacular view across the North Cumbrian plains, out towards the Solway, and across to the mountains of Dumfriesshire. Wainwright says the Vale of Lawton is sheltered on the west by a low range of grassy rounded hills uncharacteristic of Lakeland and not really part of it. This despite having southern roots in Loweswater amid scenery that is wholly typical of the district. The range has several tops of approximately the same height, none of them distinctive because the undulations are shallow, but the northern half builds up on all sides to the massive flattened dome of Fellbarrow. The extensive slopes of grass, which serve as a vast sheep pasture, decline gradually westward to quiet Mosser, northwards to Brandingill, and eastwards to the valley of the Cocker, all farming country. The scenery is pleasant but unexciting. The underlying rock is slate and rarely exposed to view below its smooth green covering. There are traces of an old plantation in a basin on the east, of which a few straggly trees remain, and a still flourishing wood on the side of the abrupt headland of Dodd nearby. Southwards, rounded humps succeed each other with little loss of height before a more distinctive shape resolves itself from the rolling acres. This is Low Fell, and beyond is Loweswater. And Low Fell is where we're heading next. Seems a bit flat and, yeah, unassuming after what seemed like quite a long climb to get up here, just over a mile up from the road, like I say. Anyway, just one more fell to go for today. It's a nice change saying that after one summit. So I've just been stopped in my tracks on the way to Low Fell because I've just noticed something out at sea which I've never seen in all the times I've been walking around the Lake District. That is the Isle of Man, I think. I've been told, I've read many places, that you can see the Isle of Man on a clear day from the western fells of the Lake District. And I've never believed them because it's always been far too hazy. But look, there it is, clear as day. That is Snae Fell. Wow, you see something new every day. Maybe Fell 200 did have a treat in store after all. Now, I assume the summit of Low Fell is the higher one of these two mounds in front of me, but that's of lesser significance at the moment because Lowswater has just sprung into view and it's beautiful as ever. And in fact, I've just realised in the gap between this lower mound and the summit of Low Fell, you can see the northern face of Melbrake. A lethal climb if ever there was one, a lethal descent at least. This is the summit of Low Fell, 1,360 feet approximately. This is Wainwright number 20 of book 7. The lesser heights and foothills of Lakeland, especially those on the fringe, are too much neglected in favour of the greater mountains. Yet many of these unsought and unfashionable little hills are completely charming. In this category is Low Fell, north of Lowswater and west of the Vale of Lawton. It has many tops, uniformly around 1,350 feet, rising from a ridge. The most southerly eminence has the main cairn and a perfectly composed view of mountain and lake scenery, a connoisseur's piece. It does have a little bit of everything here. Wonderful view down over Lowswater, past Melbrake, tiny glimpse of Crummock Water. Got Whiteside and Hopegill Head, the Vale of Lawton and North Cumbria again, stretching out towards the Solway. But the Isle of Man from this summit is slightly obscured behind the mass of Hencombe and can't remember what the other two are. The ones that I've already walked, I've forgotten the names, they weren't that memorable. And I don't particularly remember seeing the Isle of Man from the summit of them either. Anyway, yeah, so that was the final summit of the day. So it was short and sweet. Just make my way back down to the road. I've just looked it up. It's Blake Fell, Burnbank Fell and Gavel Fell, these three, which are obscuring the view of the Isle of Man. And it's no wonder I don't remember them. I do remember them as being particularly unmemorable. Certainly compared to the spectacular finish of that walk across Melbrake. Right, some more map studying. I do apologise, I've been misleading you, everyone, for the last couple of miles. That's not Lowswater down there, it's actually Crummock Water. Lowswater's down in the valley behind this outpost of Low Fell. You can't actually see it. So this is Crummock Water, and it is Buttermere poking out at the southern end of it. Right, there you go. Everything's cleared up. This is the descent, and it's going to give us even more spectacular views of Crummock Water. And there's nothing wrong with that. And speaking of descents, it's a rather steep one. I'm glad I'm going down this way, not up it. So far this path downhill has been rather more windy and invisible than it looked on the map, and through these waist-high ferns. It's still pretty soggy underfoot. I really wouldn't want to come down here on a wet day. I'd be absolutely soaked. There is, believe it or not, still actually a path under here. And this is actually the way I plotted. Hopefully it'll stop being so ferny for too long. Well, you might say this last little stretch is putting a little bit of a downer on the day. A pleasant walk up to now, but this path is virtually invisible under the ferns, and occasionally it leads you into impassable swamps. So clearly had some rain before this heat wave up in these parts. Not sure if that's the path by the fence there. Safe to say not many people pass by this way on this particular line of the path. Still about half a mile of this to go yet. Hey, I'm out of it. And go for that. Oh no. Thought I was out of it. It was just a brief respite. There's some more to come. Oh goody. Ah, that's good. I recognise this spot. This is the bit where I set off up towards Fellbarrow. Which means I'm nearly back to the road. And I'm back in Thackthwaite. Yeah, still about a mile of tarmac to go to the campsite, but to all intents and purposes, that's the end of today's walk. And yeah, barring that mile or so stretch along the foot of the fell through all the ferns, it's been a rather surprisingly pleasant walk today. Yeah, Fellbarrow in particular had some spectacular views for such a diminutive little summit. Yeah, rather fitting for a milestone 200th fell that it should grant me my first ever view of the Isle of Man, as far as I can recall anyway. Yeah, and Low Fell had some nice views back into the Lake District. Yeah, I'd say that's almost it now, just 2 more walks to go. And having said that, it was getting a little bit of a struggle along that last little bit through the awkward paths, which is slightly problematic because at that distance it's not going to be quite half distance and slightly over half distance respectively for the last 2 walks I've got to do, so yeah, they might be quite long ones, especially when the weather's supposed to be exactly as it is today. Anyway, that's for later in the weekend. For today, yeah, that's Fellbarrow and Low Fell for you. As ever, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you can join me again next time. Until then, bye for now.